Okay, so today, this is a virtual studio visit to our wonderful artist, Claire and Donna. And then we're gonna hear each of them to talking about their practice and then show their like artworks image. I'm gonna start inviting Claire first and then Dana later. First, I wanna share my screen to go into their presentation slide. And make sure I'm gonna do presentation. Here you go. Do you guys can see the slide?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's start with Claire first then.
Okay. So I thank you for whoever's watching. I appreciate your attention. And I'd like to talk a little bit about my work and how I do it and the influences that I have in doing it. Drawing has always been at the core of my art. The recent drawings are filled with a journey of what I call a journey of the line. The lines can be vertical, horizontal, straight, curved, angular, or bent. At times, nuances accumulate to create images of land, water, clouds, air, or lace. Repetition, pattern, and a sense of place are issues that run through all my work. They have propelled me from my beginnings in textiles to my current work in ink and mixed media. When I work, I enter an unknown place. I don't know where I am or where I will end. I lay the lines down haphazardly, so I am working with lines going in all directions, or sometimes I choose to lay down a grid. The end result of this journey often surprises me. I grew up in an old house in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which had a wonderful attic, which was my place of happiness. Sometimes I know we use garages for this purpose, but at that time, all the houses on the east had attics. Our attic was filled with bits of debris, buttons, broken toys, shreds of paper, tattered old doilies. These I formed and reformed until I was satisfied. I believe this is the beginning of my work. I now would call it soft sculpture, although at 5 years old, I didn't know the name of that. But I just worked on these until they became little items that I enjoyed and that I returned to often. I was born in Harrisburg, but grew up in Pittsburgh. As an adult, I moved to Wiesbaden, Germany, and traveled around Europe. I returned to the United States and enrolled in Claremont Graduate University to receive an MFA. I'm going to go back to my time in Germany because I have to mention that my family that I grew up with knew nothing about art. I had never been exposed to art in any way. They were right-wing fundamentalists, didn't know anything about art and didn't want to hear anything about art. So I don't even know if I heard the word art when I was growing up. So coming back to the United States, I returned and enrolled in Claremont Graduate University to receive an MFA, which is where I met Donna. I didn't meet Donna in the university. I think she had graduated before I had, or I had before her, but I remember very well meeting her. I remained in Los Angeles for quite a few years, enjoying the cultural advantages of the city, the wonderful art galleries and museums, which I had first experienced in Europe. I began in 2000 to exhibit at New Space Gallery. My work at that time was influenced by the vast sky I could see from my hillside home and from frequent visits to Joshua Tree, California, the desert of Joshua Tree, California. We moved to Portland in 2009, where I enjoy living near the waterfront. I'm still a frequent visitor to Joshua Tree, the endless arid landscape of desert wildflowers and Joshua trees and the stars that alter space and time. The contrast between the city of Portland and the serene desert allow me to see each with renewed eyes. This is near where we stay in Joshua Tree. I like this photo because you can see the sky, the wonderful open sky, which influences me, the mountains, the serenity, the peacefulness of this place. And I need this place to work. It enriches my work immensely. The night skies, the stars, everything about it is so peaceful and healing for me in my work. And this is near where we live here in Portland. Again, you can see I need that blue sky and the water, and I walk along the waterfront often, and that also inspires some of the work that I do. In Claremont Graduate School, I took a long time ago, I took a course in African art history, which I will never forget. And ever since then, I had been longing to go there. 2 years ago, I was able to realize my dream with a trip touring the West African West Coast from Cape Town to South Africa to Namibia, which is the location of the Southwest Deserts, then to Ghana with its white sandy beaches, Senegal and Gambia, where we saw a game reserve and many large marketplaces selling colorful textiles, jewelry, and food. Always textiles, the people wearing them, and they were in all the markets. Very tempting to buy a lot of them. Next, we went to Northwest Africa, arriving in Casablanca, and took an all-day trip to Marrakesh in Morocco. Our last stop was in Seville, where I visited two of the most recognized monuments of the city, the Alcazar, or the Royal Palace, and the Cathedral Santa Maria de la Salle. The memories of that trip will stay with me forever. From Cape Town to the desert landscape of colossal dunes colored with a palette of pink, orange, and red. When I see photos of Africa and I remember my time there, I hear the sounds of the music, the dancing. I see the wonderful landscapes, and it just stays with me. It will stay with me forever, I'm sure. Upon returning to the United States, I created a body of work influenced by these experiences. This is a harbor at Ghana. We just went down to see them fish and to see the marketplace. And I saw this young man on the left in the red shirt with his fish, which he was so happy to catch. He was just ecstatic. And I asked to take a picture, and he said yes, and I gave him $1. Pretty soon, most of his friends came running over to have their picture taken also. We were able to attend a ceremony of one of the tribes. I don't think I know the name of the tribe, but it was quite an experience to see the elaborate ceremony and to hear the chief, who is the third from the left in the sort of shamrock colored pink, address us. He spoke to us about the environment. And it was like attending an environmental talk here in the United States. Just as concerned, just as worried about the damage being done to the land and especially to the waters. He was very concerned about the fact that people are throwing plastic bags into the waters and destroying the fish. At the end of the talk, we asked him how many wives he had, which he would not tell us. This is in the Cape Town Museum of Contemporary Art. This is by El Anatsui, who is a very well-known African artist, both nationally and internationally. He uses found objects such as bottle caps, can lids, cassava graters, and many other found objects. I was thrilled to see his work because about 2 years before that, I had flown to Brooklyn Museum of Art just to see an exhibition of his. I spent the day there and then I flew home. That's how entranced I am with his work. There was another room in the gallery that really moved me. It was the work of contemporary African women artists and how they wove into their work their stories of hardship and how hard it was to be a woman in Africa at this time. So I came back and I began working with the images that I had seen there, the textiles, just the whole feeling of being in Africa. The first one is, well, the way they are done is that I collect posters from telephone poles. I really like the old posters that are torn and ragged and faded. And I collage those as a first layer on the piece itself. And I then sand it and put over it a thin layer of acrylic white paint on the left one, and I allow some of the colors from the collage to come through. Then I begin. I just begin. I don't think about it. I don't have any plans for it. I don't plan it out. It just happens. One shape follows another, the dots, the circles, the lines. These are mostly in black ink, but it was pointed out to me that some of them are in white ink. And the second one on the right is done the same way, only I used a layer of black paint very lightly, and I see a mixture of brown and black in this one, and then on the left the red has come through. So I just continue working on them until I kind of call it the end of the dance. These both are on pencil on canvas. They do not have any collage under them. The first one is called Whirl. And the way I often work when I'm doing a larger, for me, this is a larger piece, I think 14 by 16 inches, is I start working and then I cover the part that I've worked on, continue working, cover that part, and then finish, which then I need to pull together all these different parts that I haven't seen as I've been working on it. I think this creates the negative spaces in the center, and I think it creates also, or it happens to separate from the main circular form, which I kind of like that happening. I used colored pencil on this one, just switching from one color to another as I wanted to. The one on the right is called Bay. This was influenced by my frequent walks on the Santa Monica beach before I went to teach my class at Santa Monica College. My class would be at 6 o'clock and I would go around 4. And it was beautiful to watch the sunset. All these people lined up along the beach, watching the sunset. and I would watch the tides come in and break into these tiny little bubbles at the shore, which then worked their way into this piece. We moved to Portland, as I said, in 2009, and the one on the left, which is called Winter, is the first piece I believe that I did. I used the same technique of covering parts of it, which makes for these pieces pulling away from the other pieces. I don't think it would look like that if I had not done that covering technique, because I see areas where it just kind of would go out of my reach, which I wouldn't have done if I had been able to see it. And I find this an interesting way to work. I also see little blue seashells in there, which I think are reminding me of my ocean back in Santa Monica. The one on the right is called Landscape. I'm sorry, it's called, yeah, it is called Landscape. No, I'm sorry, this is called, I can't remember the name of this, but it reminds me of my early days in fiber arts, where I would just put down whatever I wanted to put down to integrate all these various colors and shapes. And it reminds me also of a carpet or a tapestry, which comes back from my early days in fiber arts. I wanted to start experimenting with mixed media. So I started exploring different kinds of unfamiliar items that I had not used before. The hardware store, the yarn shop, Home Depot, and also the posters on telephone poles. A trip to Paris also provided me with a lot of these posters. Paris, they're all over the walls, they're all over the signposts everywhere. The first one is white paint, and there is collage under it. You can see the shapes going in different ways in the under pattern, and then the squiggly lines coming down from the top to the bottom are of caulking. I had been following Mark Bradford, an LA artist, and the way he used caulking intrigued me, so I decided I wanted to try it. The one on the right is entitled "The World is Loud and Full of Noise." This came to me when I was over on the east side of Portland collecting posters, and it just, it interested me, the noise that is in the city that we don't hear unless we go over there. The sounds of the helicopters and the cars and the motorcycles and the people talking, and just a cacophony of noise, which I then put into this piece called "The World is Loud and Full of Noise." I think we have a lot of noise and information coming to us at all times. This is the last slide. I call this series Steelies. A stele is a tall slab of wood or stone from ancient times. They were used as grave markers, decorated or undecorated. I wanted to experience working in 3 dimensions. Unlike in a painting, there are boundaries in working around an object. The 2 on the left are ink on wood. I had the wood fabricated for me, and then I had the weights put in the bottom of them. So as I said, the first 2 are ink, and they seem to just progress along more densely in this piece. And the 2 on the right are pencil on wood, and they seem to be more separated or more fragmented as they ended. But I still kind of see them as paintings. Thank you for listening. It was fun to do this, and I appreciate your watching and listening.
Thank you, Claire. So now we're gonna move to Dana's presentation. I wanna first play a beautiful video for explain Dana's practice, and then I believe this was from her last solo exhibition.
My name is Donna Morin, and I'm excited to show this collection of paintings, prints, combination of woodcuts and monoprints and copperplate prints. Basically, I'm interested in composition. In other words, I've been thinking about the idea, does a painting have to end at the edge of the canvas, or does a framed work end at the edge of the frame? My thinking was about putting two things together or more. It seems like it gives an opportunity to have the work have a conversation with each other. Block Party is a collection of several different canvases. Not all of them have the same motif, and they're not the same sizes, but the idea was not really conceived before they were put together. They just came on their own, as a lot of artwork does, has a way of becoming itself. It seemed like as each one came into its own, it wanted to be a part of the group. And as I put them together in this group, it seemed like they needed something else besides just the painting. So I used the small wooden dots as a transition. And then, of course, the wall became important, and it felt like a breathing space for all of this color. And then it felt like I needed black lines, so I added the black sticks to the group. This collection has a couple of different names. Each one has a name all of its own, but then when it came time to think about it in a sort of different way, each one of these woodcuts, although they would have been fine hung individually together, or the paintings would have been fine all by themselves, it seemed like they were stronger together than separate. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't want the canvas or the creativity to end at the edge of the canvas. So continuing with this idea of side-by-side imagery, this is called Two Roads. And when I was very young, I wanted to go to art school. I did marry very young and had a family. I have wonderful children. But there came a point when the opportunity to develop my artwork did come to be. And interestingly enough, it was my children who were the most supportive. This grouping is made on a copper plate at Crown Point Press in San Francisco in 2017. This is an experience that I always wanted to do for many, many years. It was great to experience that last year. The one print with the hearts is called Heart of the Matter, because I sort of carried this idea of wanting to go to a workshop in San Francisco for a very long time.
Oops.
I saw Roland there.
Okay, so Donna, it's your time to speak up.
Hello, I'm Donna Morin, and unfortunately I have a voice tremor, so I ask for your patience. Art is about how life gets into us, and for me, my journey consists of many art chapters and life chapters. As you've already seen in the video, I use geometric abstraction, and it's something that's very interesting to me, and using basic simple graphic shapes and symbols are intriguing as well. I use a circle, a square, heart, etc., and they become a narrative for a life lived. This personal and cultural iconography is also generic. And my search is with this personal vocabulary, but it includes an interest in the sphere of postmodernism. The underlying structural principles of this work is informed by the ancients and formal tenets of 20th century modernism. I was born in Michigan in 1939, and at a very young age, I became ill with diphtheria. This was a time before penicillin was used in a common way. The penicillin didn't become common until about 1945. And diphtheria was a childhood illness, a respiratory illness. And during my recovery, I had to stay in bed. Bed rest was the method of recovery for that time. And so I discovered coloring books, crayons, paper dolls, etc. And I enjoyed this very much. However, by the age of 5, my family decided that they had had enough of the cold climate, and a move to warmer climate was the idea. And San Jose, California was the chosen place. And it was in San Jose that I attended elementary education through high school. And shortly after my high school graduation, I married and raised my children for 25 years. But once the children were on their own and were adults, I wanted to go back to school. And that's when I went back to Claremont for my MFA. The years that followed were about teaching, and I worked retail. I actually worked at the LA County Art Museum in the bookstore, and I also made art. It was just a time when I devoted myself to drawing and painting and printmaking. Currently, I live in Southern California. I live in the Inland Empire, but I lived for a while in Los Angeles as well. And my work is about the colorful atmosphere of California. I'm interested in the air, light, and water. However, this collection that I'm going to show you is basically black and white because it's about now. I've called this collection a season, and I've brought forth two paintings from my previous exhibit. This painting called Line is 25 inches by 25 inches, oil on canvas. And this season is not spring or summer or even fall. It's this now season that is the unknown. It's the universal season that we're all experiencing. This current pandemic culture is about unexpected change, loss, and uncertainty. And all of us are looking for a life rhythm. We want to be with family, friends, work, home, and hope. And so many have lost their jobs, lost their family member to this virus that we're all experiencing. Next. I've also included time, and this was from 2018, and the hourglass holds the sands of time. None of us know how many sands we have in our hourglass. So how do we choose to use our time? How do we share our time? How is one lost in time? Who decides? Next. I wanted to expand this idea of partnering. And so I added two more paintings. These are recent, and multiplying the abstracts maintains a pace for progression where hope begins. The circle embraces, adding to the whole. Next. This is called Arc of the Season, and this is the centerpiece of this collection. The upper area are two hearts, and these are symbols for giving and receiving. We have seen on our television many people handing out food to those who have lost their job, who have lost their wages. Also, over on the far right is the symbol of a house. We've all been asked to stay home for non-essential visits and travel. In the upper area where you see these small red shapes, these are what I call shards. They're the little pointed things that get inside of us that make us move one way or another. I call these intuition. So what I'm showing you now is the relationship that is going to connect with the abstract paintings. In the center, you can see this beautiful Japanese decorative paper that I have adhered to Arches 88 paper. And over on the right, this is a linoleum block that I have carved with a V gouge. And the lines that you see will not accept the ink when I roll the brayer over the surface of this block. The flat areas will accept the ink. And when this is rolled onto the paper, the gold does not collect the oil ink, and it won't adhere to, the black ink won't adhere to the gold vines. Next. And you can see that here, where the gold almost seems like it's on the surface or in front of these tulips. This is a different image from the block that I've previously shown you. But the idea is it appears as though the flowers are in a field. And these floral collections were selected because they were received by me from my family for Mother's Day and Easter holiday. And nature has a season from bud to blossom, maturity passing, that recedes and transforms. As with nature, culture is experiencing a changing season. Next. And so I've included these ranunculus, which were part of the bouquet that I received. And these blackened flowers feel like a precursor to the forest fires of the West Coast that we all experienced during the months of August and September. And the golden background even feels like the sky when it was filled with ash and smoke. Next. Lilies and azaleas. And this 2020 season feels endless as we continue to stay at home, and we try to fill our time with creativity, making stories and Zoom meetings. Next. I've also included lemons. The citrus industry is a native gift to Southern California. And so here is the collection of a season. And these abstracts are combined with nature. They don't lose their self in each other. Instead, the strength is in the group and becomes a new tempo. The mystery and reverence of abstraction combines with nature's rhythm to create a larger magical field. And so now I'm going to show you my studio. This is my printing area where I have a press, an ink table, a light box beneath, a drawing rack. And here are a few of my recent prints. Next. Across from the printing area is a table and a board where I can hang my collages. And so on the lower row, this is called furlough, to be, trace, test, trace, 100,000, stand off, rubber bullets boxed in, masks up, home, Broadway closed, uncommon time, as is 200,000, heart and soul. Next. This is my painting area, and the painting on the left was incompleted at the time that I took the picture. And next, this is the final painting, my tribute to California. And so I thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. This is the end of our Asia presentation. And then if you have any questions, I believe Priya is gonna post this at the YouTube, and she probably has contact information. I'm also planning to distribute to anybody who registers at the Eventbrite visit. So I'm gonna email these people too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mimi.